It's a great pleasure to welcome the Managing Director of Altron Nexus, Mark Harris, who is joining us today to talk about a lot of things, to talk about COVID, to talk about education, to talk about connectivity. Firstly, Mark, it's just great to see you again. How have you been, and how's the lockdown and COVID-19 been treating you personally and business-wise?
Well, COVID-19 was a shock, I think, to any business. We didn't quite understand what impact it will have. I think we've got a good understanding now about what the type of impact it is. I think some of us are lucky that we're in industries which are not that badly affected, but not that badly with COVID. And we've been fortunate in that we also had to deliver essential services through the period to sort of keep the business ticking, not easily, but kept it. But then the other side is to look after the welfare of our employees, which is important for us, right?
Very much
so. We've had to send employees into high-risk areas with all the necessary safety precautions. So it's been a tough period, keeping our customers going, keeping essential services, especially because we play in a very important space, which is in the health sector and in the education sector.
Yeah.
So.
I wanted to ask you, Altron Nexus, what does Altron Nexus do? We know of Altron, we know of my good friend Mteto Nyati. What exactly does Altron Nexus do?
The Altron Nexus is really the connectivity arm for Altron. So what we do is we basically have multiple businesses. There's a legacy, which is we do critical communications. Okay, so to cover what that really is. So when you get stopped by a policeman because you're under the influence, you find he has a Motorola radio or iTero radio with him. And that is what they call critical communications, that no one else can listen into what the police are saying. And we've built those networks over a long period of time. We also have our own network, which is called Fleet Call. So where you don't own a network, we can supply you with the radios, and you can have closed channels in order to do critical communications. And it's all over the place: emergency services, security companies. So that's the one part of our business. The big part of business is that we build fiber networks, right? So we were commissioned by Gauteng. We did something called GBN1, which is to build fiber throughout Gauteng, and then we hook up all the government institutions. But the big focus is on education again, and not surprisingly on health. So that's hospital, clinics, etc. And that's been a huge success in the way we've rolled out this network, that all of a sudden you've got connectivity into hospitals to be able to exploit the latest technology and applications and systems and digital in order to improve the health services. So that's a big part of our business. We do that across quite a few provinces. And we also build massive projects like the Gautrain project around connectivity. The third area is a thing we call smart. So this is building smart cities, smart provinces, smart buildings, smart systems in this environment, which is really where connectivity again plays a. And I'm sure we're going to get into more detail on that. But the reality of it is that we are able to create a smart city, as an example, for public safety and justice, where we would be able to help put up systems that's been able to improve safety dramatically, whether we're talking city, provincial, or even at a building level.
This is like, you guys do all the invisible stuff that the public doesn't see, that really ensures the elasticity and the connectivity happens. You're talking about critical services over here. You're talking about the backbone that really is critical in terms of when you talk about health, when you talk about education, you talk about health and safety, for example. All those things are incredibly important. Has there been an acceleration of this digital transformation since March? Have you seen anything where, either government or private entities have said, listen, we need to fast track a lot of things because of this COVID-19 pandemic?
I think it's an understatement, Aki, which is unusual for you, that it was a fast track. I think it was pushed off the edge of the cliff, right?
Yeah.
In that, all of a sudden, there were three things that created a huge change. The one was that I think overnight, businesses had to send employees to work from home.
Yes.
To be able to work, you need connectivity. So this was unparalleled, right? Where people who maybe had an ADSL, maybe even didn't have an ADSL, people who didn't even have a data contract, suddenly business, society, government had to connect everybody because of the work from home environment. The second major thing that happened was around education, right? So it was unparalleled. I've never seen anything like that, where I sounded like a stuck record about digital transformation and the impact should have on education and on schools. And suddenly you've got teachers who've never used technology, having to use technology platforms and needed the connectivity in order to just do the basic education required during this period. So it was a tsunami that just came, and people had to react. They had to swim or they had to drown, right? And
Yes.
It happened. I've never seen society, and South Africa specifically, step up that quick to be able to get connected, embrace the connectivity. And then the other aspect is about devices, right? So, think about, I've had a friend call me and says, I've just been asked to supply 6,000 devices to Department of Education. I'm going through the process. How do we do this, right? So there was this mad rush because people never had access before.
Yes.
Just did not. And that goes across industries. It's not just in government. It's not a government issue. It's a societal issue. I mean, some of the industries that have been impacted is unreal. I mean, I sat through, the one industry that I thought was always resistant to transformation was the legal industry. And all of us, you're not sitting in a lawyer's office for 6 hours trying to document something. It's all done via online systems. The court cases, we sat last week through a Supreme Court appeal, and that I was amazed at the way the legal fraternity have just adapted. And you have in your hearing done via online mechanisms. So the world's changed, and I don't think it's ever going to go back.
No doubt.
Because people have been pushed over this abyss. Digital transformation's real. Connectivity to support it is real.
Now, I mean, this remote working is extraordinary. Now, I agree with you. We're never going to go back to where the normal was, and I think we've still got a lot of work to do on connectivity, particularly in education, which I want to touch on in just a second. But you've been working very closely with Huawei, with regards to the remote working. How are you guys working together to bring this connectivity together? And why Huawei specifically?
So the relationship with Huawei goes quite a while. I was a little surprised to see the strength of the relationship when I joined Nexus, and I quickly realized why this strategic partnership makes such a lot of sense. Let's just take a step back, right? So when you look at Nexus builds networks, and all of a sudden you've got this company which globally is recognized as probably the leader in communications and connectivity. And so I don't think it was a partnership that anyone decided. It was almost a partnership that it just naturally was created.
Yes.
So we've all types of networks with Huawei, right? It's important to understand that because, when we look at even the fiber networks we're building in Gauteng or in Limpopo, what we found is that the only partner who could have got us to where we were was Huawei. It's more than just a company that supplies technology. They've got deep capability. And what we found is that with their capability and with our capability, we actually had a competency that could really be successful in rolling out networks. And it goes beyond just the networks, because if you look at the entire communications and you look at all the applications, our strategies are directly aligned. So if you've not looked at it before, Aki, but if you look at connectivity, there's a couple of things that stand out. The first is a thing called 5G, and 5G is where everything will be 5G into the future. The second thing is something called SD-WAN, which is the biggest challenge corporates have in managing they're complex networks, and it's right in the core of our strategies around both those areas. The third, which is just as important, is something which is called smart. So when we look at, whether it's smart city, smart education, smart province, it's also a key strategy for Huawei, where they're making a lot of investments in those spaces, in the applications and in the technology. So it was almost a marriage that was almost natural.
Yeah.
Where you looked at where our strategy was and where their strategy, and there was total alignment. So, they've become our strategic partner in a lot of those areas.
That's exciting stuff. I mean, Mark, it makes sense. I've been to their headquarters in Shenzhen, certainly a company that's got a very deep legacy in connectivity, and, the support base is equally important, to be able to deliver the things that you're talking about. One of the exciting projects, and I know that this is the one thing in the province and across the country that there have been gaps, there's no doubt about it, is getting that connectivity to the have-nots. And this is the problem with this digital divide that we have, is that there are certain areas that don't have the connectivity. And this is why I'm very excited about the Gauteng provincial broadband network that you guys are working together with Huawei, if I'm not mistaken, and lots of other partners. Tell us about this particular project.
Yeah, so when you look at connectivity, maybe I'll just cover it broadly before I go into Gauteng. But when you look at connectivity across the entire country, in fact, across the entire continent, yes, I think it's very important to understand that, connectivity was initially seen as something that happened in corporates, maybe at, some education institutions, yes, but basically the large part of our society, which one either can't afford or the areas they live in is just not connected, right? Again, I'll go back. I think COVID is starting to challenge the basics of what that is. So Gauteng fortunately realized that actually they needed to put the backbones in place to provide connectivity to all types of government institutions. So whether you're talking hospitals, whether you're talking schools, clinics, whether you're talking libraries, and that on its own is driven a huge requirement about who's connected and who's not connected. We're not yet there. Okay, we're not yet there. If I look at where we are, there's all types of projects that's in place around how you will drive connectivity. But even if you take 5G, it's still focused. So, corporates will really talk about where there's a huge concentration of people. And the second thing that they typically will not say is that huge concentration of people who can afford connectivity.
Right.
Okay. So the risk is that it creates even a bigger divide for us. And that's a personal passion for Altron and for myself to try and ensure that we can put the systems and the networks in place that will provide connectivity on a wider range so that you can provide the services, because it's not having connectivity for connectivity's sake. It's the services today which uplifts the lives of people that require connectivity, right?
Completely.
And we can see whether you're talking security, whether you're talking health, whether you're talking education, all of it, the services are there. But if you don't have connectivity, you're going to struggle to deliver the services.
Yes.
Someone said to me recently, they said, you know what? The school my kids go to is fantastic because they've put together the education systems through using online video conferencing. They've put together the curriculum that the kids, or the work plans that the kids need to do. He says, but we were stopped from using this. And I said, what happened? He says, there are parents who don't have connectivity.
Yeah,
and
that's
felt
real.
hated device. So the school stopped it. They said, we're not using the online systems anymore. Everyone must physically come and collect the work plans and the curriculums because of the fact that there's haves and there's have-nots. And that's a challenge we as a country will continue to experience unless we can find a way to drive connectivity to everyone in society. In fact, it's probably those people who need it more than the people who can afford it.
So how are you going to deliver this? I mean, what are you going to use? I know you've spoken about 5G. There's lots of fiber out there. What kind of technologies are you going to use on this project to deliver what you've been telling us?
So there's a lot, right? We're working with Huawei on a number of projects. We're working with governments on a number of projects around what we need to do to try and ensure. So you will hear a lot of terms. So government is trying, and it's hard and it's expensive to roll out, but we've seen good intent by a lot of the provinces about what they call public Wi-Fi, right?
Yes, yes.
Not a lot of success, I must say, at this particular point in time because of the costs and the complexity of doing it, but it's there.
Yeah.
So you find public Wi-Fi at universities, you find it at libraries. There's an interesting story, Aki, as an example, where government had to shut down the libraries. You know why? Because of COVID, they had the public gathering around the libraries because they could get access to Wi-Fi.
Oh, wow.
In a COVID risk.
Gee.
So that's the requirement from people, is this connectivity that they need to do. So what are we doing? There's all types of projects, which is great. I think the spectrum allocation and the WOAN is critical, right? Because a lot of connectivity solutions, if you have the right spectrum, you can roll out things like 5G, as an example. Work in progress. Are we there? Far from it. Okay. So, the role of the MNOs will start to come through. Will they reduce the cost of data to a point that we don't leave people behind is still to be judged, right?
Yeah.
Second thing is there are things. There's a whole lot of other projects. I think the WOAN project becomes quite critical. There's things like TV white space. If you get a lot of society, because through that school areas, you can do it. There's something called wireless ISP. So we're working with Huawei as an example to look at the wireless communications and how you roll those satellites out. And we see government, rather than just waiting for fiber, they're starting to find other communications technologies in order to uplift the speed. Again, COVID's had a lot to do with it, to drive the speed at which you bring connectivity to all places. I think the ideal is everyone should have some level of connectivity. It should not just be about affordability. Government's got the role, businesses got a role in order to do it, and the people in the space have got a role to ensure that everyone is.
Well, Mark, I really sincerely hope that this time it does happen. I mean, because in the past, I mean, there have been promises that have been made, they haven't been delivered, and at the end of the day, the people of the country have been the ones that have suffered. But what you're saying now is a very thorough plan, and there's a lot of will to get this done properly this time. I mean, one of the projects that you've been working on, and it's really, really exciting, is the City of Ekurhuleni's Wi-Fi project. You mentioned Wi-Fi earlier. I mean, how on earth do you cover such a broad area? Tell us about this project.
So the Ekurhuleni was actually done in 2016. So it's a project that was quite thing. So bearing in mind what government's doing, right? So all the province municipalities are looking and saying, we actually need first of all, just to get government connected properly, right? And so there's a lot of projects around taking the old infrastructure that doesn't support the latest types of speeds and upgrading this, and then getting government institutions, getting schools, getting hospitals, etc. hooked up, right? So that's underway. At the same time, they've realized that if they get public Wi-Fi going, it has an economic benefit, because you're starting to get this types of people that we don't normally give, who don't normally have access to connectivity, the ability to exploit the government capabilities to supply public Wi-Fi. But Aki, I would say it's like filling up a hole with water. It's going to take a lot before that hole is filled up, right? It's going to take a lot of water. So we see it in different metros, in different provinces. Public Wi-Fi goes up, it's going to disappear, right? People will use it, and the requirement is probably 100 times more than what you can do. So Ekurhuleni was one of the more adventurous provinces that went about. We rolled that out for them. They created public Wi-Fi. But also, you can't just create it as an example in the center of town, because people go home.
Yes.
So, go home, and I suspect, connect. I don't know what it's like in your home, but in my home, if it's, not having connectivity is worse than not having lights and water, right?
Don't even go there.
Okay, so you get it. Now imagine someone who has public Wi-Fi because they work in the center of town. They can do what they need to, including some level of entertainment or education, etc. Now home and they've got nothing. Yeah. It's a challenge that you've got. Public Wi-Fi is great, but I think you got to look at the broader issue, including in what happens in the poorer communities.
So technically, how do you do that? I know you've partnered with Wi-Fi. I mean, with Huawei at least, to get this Wi-Fi network quite broadly across Ekurhuleni. And it's great that you're saying that if you're in the city of Ekurhuleni and you want to go home in the afternoon, the idea is that you have that connectivity to be able to do what you need to do in your personal and your private life. But
Yeah.
that must be a massive challenge. How do you blanket an area like Ekurhuleni, which is quite big?
Yeah, so it's not easy, Aki. And do we have the resources to do it quickly? The answer is no. I'll be straight with you. I think there's a lot of attempts. So there's something called, as an example, TV white space.
Yes.
So what that is to use the spare capacity in what the specific the spectrum that you normally use in TV, that you can drive connectivity. And it's okay. It's not going to allow you to stream Netflix, but it gives you some level of connectivity. We've seen a lot of attempts by communities themselves to start creating the capability to create broadband in the communities they live. It's not as pervasive as it is in the rest of the world in South Africa, but it's something that you will not stop. Right. So as an example, if you look in the US, they're actually building those networks themselves. They're actually saying LTE networks. You have a town like Randburg suddenly says we're going to put our own LTE, and the regulator allows them to do that. I think it's got to be controlled, but I also think at some stage you've got to open the capability for people to do that. So it's a process that we're going to go through. We'll see community involvement. You'll see government rollout capability. You'll see cheaper, more affordable forms of connectivity roll out to those townships. And you'll see government, as they need to deliver services, start to make bigger investments in those areas in order to do it.
Mark, I'm listening to you, and I'm really so excited and encouraged to hear the things that you've been saying. I mean, connectivity is the future. It's been measured by the World Bank and such bodies that when you have connectivity in society, there's a direct economic impact. Once you start connecting these e-services that you're talking about, government, hospitals, all those strategic roles within government, and you get people connected, then things start happening, and you're starting to see economic change. And boy, oh boy, do we need this economic change. This is a very interesting strategic partnership between yourselves, Altron Nexus and Huawei. You're not dating. You guys are now in a relationship. This is a proper business relationship that you guys have got. How did it start, and where do you see it, say, in 5 years from now?
So I think, Alex, you talk about dating. Actually, there's a lot of kids along the way, and they're quite pretty kids, right? If you look at the projects that has come out of this relationship. I think Huawei is a company that cares about countries. It's a country that about what they do in society. So they've worked very closely with us. It's not always about how much money you can make, right? Sometimes to do projects for the right things you can do. So where we are today, we continue to help government to roll out things like Wi-Fi. You'll see wire links, satellite communications, other forms of communication as we build out those particular infrastructures. The exciting thing is around smart, right? So when you look at connectivity into the future, I think 5G is got to be great. It's not the rest of the big MNOs, right? It's something that as society, we've got to make sure we keep our eyes on it. It will help to empower the people in the townships if we get it right and we make it affordable. It cannot just be exploited for profitable gains. And I think government's got a key role as arbiter to play in that particular space. Then you've got to look and you say, okay, so now that we have that, what else do we do? And it's all about smart. It's all about moving into this era which people have coined for IRR. But Huawei and ourselves, as I say, are so aligned in what we do, whether we're talking public safety and justice, etc., around what we do to improve society and enable all elements of society in a new connected world, which did not exist. So I'm looking forward. There's exciting projects we already embarked on. So never mind just the connectivity, but once you see the value-added services, I think we change society in South Africa overall.
Mark, I mean, This is such exciting stuff you're saying. When do you expect there to be some kind of measurable progress on the things that you've made? Would you say that within the next 5 years, 3 years, are we going to see all of these services connected? Or are we going to see kids that are sitting in areas where they haven't had access to technology or connectivity? Are they going to be connected? Is e-learning going to become a reality this time? How soon before you see this becoming a reality?
I think we're already there. Okay, the things you're touching on, it's over. I mean, the kids are being connected. They are starting to use the learning systems. So we're already there. That era is upon us. It's not 5 years.
Yes.
I think you will see is a transformation of the education systems. I think there's a lot of work to do. We need to get teachers to accept. They're already using online conferencing, e-learning's the next phase. Even some universities, you'll be surprised, did not have e-learning capability. I mean, when COVID hit us and I realized that, I was like, in a university not have an online learning capability, right? That's changed quickly. So I think education will transform. You look at health services, it's in the process of transforming. Look at government, it's in the process of transforming. I think what we're looking at is some of the more advanced applications and how that's going to fit. I'll give you an example, right? Let's just look at some of the issues we've got. There's certain hotspots of crime. Good example. What you should see, it's happening in the rest of the world, is cameras that proactively monitor those hotspots. The moment something unusual, you have an AI engine that detects there's an issue, and there's automatic dispatching of our police force who are armed with body cams, etc., to go, and you will solve a lot of crime very, very quickly. That is something, it's not 5 years, we could do today. There's a lot of barriers we need to overcome in order to make that happen. So the change is not because we have to wait for technology for 5 years. The change is going to be how quickly does government create a regulatory environment to be able to exploit the technologies which are already there. So is that 2 years? Is it 5 years? I don't know. But I can tell you, as a country, it should happen as quickly as it possibly can. And that's the biggest challenge. The change in spectrum, it's got to happen, right? Because that will make more people be able to play in the connectivity space so we can deliver the types of services to society that we require.
Oh, absolutely encouraging and very exciting, the journey that you and Huawei are taking. It's a great pleasure to talk to you, Mark Harris, the Managing Director of Altron Nexus. Thank you for your time, and we wish you well and every success in these projects that you've mentioned. Certainly, it is the glue and the connectivity that you guys are creating, critical part of our economic growth. Thank you for your time, Mark. Good to see you again.
Thank you, Aki. Good to chat to you again. Thank you.